So, there comes a point in every leader's journey, a quiet, often unexpected moment, when they look around at all the effort they've put in and ask a really sobering question.
Hmm.
Is what I'm building actually going to last? I mean, that impressive job title, the packed calendar, all those quarterly wins.
Yeah, the things that get you applause.
Exactly. They can all start to feel surprisingly, well, thin and temporary when you look at the long horizon.
And that feeling of hollowness, that's
Right.
precisely the symptom.
Yeah.
The analysis we reviewed really targets.
Right.
We are embarking on a deep dive today to fundamentally shift the metric of success.
Okay.
It means moving entirely beyond those temporary achievements, things like titles, profits, or, fleeting personal influence, and focusing instead on the kind of enduring impact that's measured by transformation in people.
And the frameworks we have here are very clear on where the struggle is for modern professionals. Most leaders are, they're experienced, hardworking, well-intentioned, but they struggle to build a legacy because they lack a reliable internal compass. They confuse activity with progress.
And critically, directionless leadership doesn't always look chaotic. In fact, sometimes it looks incredibly efficient.
Polished, even.
Polished, exactly. It hits its targets, but if it lacks a deeper why, the whole structure can just feel hollow. The pressure to constantly perform causes, movement without meaning, momentum that ultimately serves no lasting mission.
So the core shift for you, the learner, isn't about striving harder or adding more hours or, chasing the next trendy management framework, is it? It sounds like we need to stop looking outward for that validation.
It's about aligning deeper, not striving harder. Legacy-driven leadership, it means aligning your daily actions, your strategic decisions, and your relational investments with a clear calling and mission.
Okay.
The ancient models we're examining today, they reveal that this depth, this alignment, is the only mechanism that truly sustains influence across generations.
Okay, let's unpack this core contrast immediately, because it dictates, well, everything that follows. The source material presents a clear, almost startling dichotomy: accumulation versus cultivation.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional leadership focuses on accumulation, what you build for yourself, like the size of the budget you manage, the personal applause you get, or that list of titles you collect.
And history shows those things fade fast. They're tied to your personal tenure.
Right.
What truly matters instead is cultivation, what you planted in others.
Mm.
The truest measure of leadership is the lasting impact left in people, in transformed lives, in communities, and in, future generations.
It transcends personal ambition.
Completely. It transcends personal ambition and the need for public recognition.
The major foundational strategy for this shift, from accumulation to cultivation, it's multiplication. We see it modeled so powerfully in the story of Moses and Joshua.
Moses' greatest accomplishment wasn't just the miraculous exodus or the confrontation with Pharaoh, as impressive as those were. His most profound act of leadership was relational, dedicating decades to preparing Joshua. He was ensuring he was equipped not just to take command, but to carry the mission forward into a new era. He understood that the sustainability of the purpose rested not on his singular charismatic achievements, but on the capacity of the next generation.
It's the ultimate act of delegation, right? Ensuring the vision is bigger than the visionary.
Precisely. And we see the same pattern with the New Testament models. Jesus didn't spend his time building physical structures or, accumulating worldly wealth or status.
Yeah.
He dedicated his core energy to commissioning disciples who would carry the message and the mission into generations he would never personally meet.
So if we connect this foundational principle to the bigger picture of your career, the takeaway is, well, it's pretty stark. Leadership is a relay, not a solo marathon. The fundamental question every modern leader must confront is, who will continue the work when you are no longer the one leading it?
Yeah.
If the answer is no one, then you've accumulated power, but you haven't built a legacy.
And that leads us directly to the required starting point, because you can't pass on what you don't possess. The analysis we reviewed highlights that legacy starts with clarity, a calling, which is very distinct from ambition.
This is the why behind what you do. It's the intrinsic value that drives you when the external rewards kind of dry up. And I think this distinction is crucial because ambition feels like a choice you make for yourself.
Yeah.
I want this title, this income, this status.
Right.
But calling, it feels like a role you were summoned into.
That difference is everything. The leaders who made the most enduring impact, they rarely pursued leadership for glory. They were summoned to a mission.
Right.
Moses, for example, was called from the wilderness. He was reluctant, protesting, not choosing leadership for personal gain. His whole life was oriented by the mission he was handed.
And think about Queen Esther, who found herself placed in the palace not because she schemed for power, but, by providence. Her profound influence on the destiny of her people came from her obedience to her context. She risked her life for the greater mission, rather than just using her position for luxury or personal safety.
Or consider Paul. He wasn't just converted, he was utterly transformed from a persecutor into an apostle with a defining mission to the Gentiles. He didn't seek influence. He received an assignment that demanded his full life. What's fascinating here is what happens when you lack that clarity of calling.
You risk drifting.
You don't just drift, you waste resources. Directionless leadership risks wandering into busyness, distraction, or what we call vanity projects.
Things that look important.
Right. They look important, they feel productive, but they only serve the ego of the leader, not the enduring mission.
So purpose-driven leadership steps in, and it forces you to answer 3 critical questions that act as an instant clarity check for you, the listener. 1, why am I here? 2, who am I meant to influence? And 3, what lasting change am I stewarding in the world?
And anchoring yourself in those answers, it prevents you from being swept away by the immediate demands of the job, which often prioritize short-term outputs over long-term impact.
Yeah.
If your next activity doesn't help answer one of those 3 questions, it's likely a distraction.
That sounds great in theory, but practically, how do you operationalize that? Calling against, the relentless pressures of a modern job.
The analysis offers a very practical, concrete tool. Crafting a leadership mission statement.
Okay.
And this is more than just a fluffy corporate slogan. It's a concise, actionable declaration that integrates your core faith or values, your unique gifts or skills, and the explicit needs of the people or community under your influence.
So it serves as a non-negotiable compass. Can you give us an idea of the structure?
Sure. Think of it as the 3-part sentence. For example, I will use my unique gift or skill to take this action so that this specific impact is achieved in these specific people or this area. It's designed to be simple, memorable, and rigid enough to function as a filtering mechanism against distraction. If an opportunity comes up, you hold it up to that statement and ask, is this alignment or is this divergence?
I love that, a practical filter. Okay, so if calling is the compass that guides the why, how do we navigate the how? We often talk about power and hierarchy, but the models we reviewed highlight that true power is, it's countercultural. It's authority exercised through service.
Yeah.
We're taught to climb the hierarchy, but the kingdom-centered model redefines authority entirely.
This is where we really confront the modern business mindset head-on. In our society, authority means you delegate the unpleasant tasks downward.
Of course.
But the most powerful leadership example is Jesus washing the disciples' feet in John 13.
That scene is so disruptive.
It is. In that culture, foot washing was explicitly the task of the lowest non-Jewish servant. The teacher, the Lord, kneels before his followers and takes on the role of the least. This act, it just redefined leadership. It showed that true authority is inseparable from authentic, humble service.
But doesn't that present some friction for the modern listener? I mean, if true authority is earned through service, how do you maintain executive function or enforce necessary decisions in a competitive, output-focused environment without being, exploited?
That raises an important question. The analysis distinguishes between 2 types of leaders. First, the positional leader. They command through hierarchy. They demand compliance.
Right.
And while they might achieve short-term outputs, hearts are rarely changed. Their influence is fragile. It's contingent only on their status or their title.
So their power disappears the moment the title is gone.
Exactly. But the transformational leader, they lead through service, mentorship, and genuine example. They aren't trying to be martyrs. They are investing. Their influence is earned through trust and deep relational investment, empowering others to rise alongside them. This type of leadership isn't just nice, it's strategic because it cultivates independent strength in the team.
And this is where it gets really interesting in terms of long-term strategy.
Yeah.
The core mechanism for legacy isn't accumulation of power, but the multiplication of capacity. You aren't just hoarding resources, you are reproducing leadership in others.
Multiplication ensures that the mission doesn't collapse if you step away. Think of the model of Barnabas and John Mark. John Mark was a young leader who, he abandoned the first missionary journey. A pretty significant public failure.
Yeah, most leaders would have dropped him immediately. The positional leader would certainly see him as a liability.
Yet Barnabas, whose name literally means son of encouragement, He took the long view. He mentored John Mark patiently, restoring him and investing in his potential despite his past failure.
Ah.
And that relational investment, it led to multiplication. John Mark went on to write one of the Gospels and became an important leader himself.
So the lesson is that true multiplying leaders prioritize restoration and potential over perfect performance. They understand that human development takes time and a tolerance for failure.
And for the listener looking for the practical route forward, the analysis offers the legacy framework. It's a cycle. Values, actions, mentoring, impact, legacy.
Okay.
This is the practical, deliberate movement away from short-term management toward intentionally shaping future generations.
Let's break that framework down briefly. So,
Right.
values inform your actions.
Right.
Your consistent actions become the basis for your mentoring. Successful mentoring leads to long-term impact, and that sustained impact is your legacy.
It connects every daily decision to the ultimate goal, which leads us to our final essential piece, sustainability. Legacy demands intentional systems to sustain the vision beyond the leader's personal charisma or their tenure. Charisma fades, systems endure.
So we have to anticipate transitions and actively plan for succession even when we feel secure in our role.
Exactly.
This is why the instructional insight from Paul to Timothy is so key in the material, specifically 2 Timothy 2.2. Entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also.
And this isn't just about handing over a title. It's about ensuring that the people you train are capable of teaching and training others.
Right.
It's a 4-generational transfer of mission. You must intentionally design a sustainable 4-stage leadership pipeline training learners who become apprentices, who become leaders, who become multipliers.
And what sustains that process structurally?
It requires 3 intentional steps. First, codifying values, writing down core principles and operating philosophies. This creates the mission DNA that guides decision-making when you are not there.
Okay.
Second, structured mentorship, creating clear, institutionalized stages of development and competency assessment. It can't just be casual, it must be measurable. And third, designing for continuity, ensuring that systems, processes, and communication flows remain effective when the originator of the vision is no longer at the helm.
To bring this home with a historical example of that kind of enduring influence that transcended personal charisma, you can look at William Wilberforce. His legacy endures centuries later, not just because he was a title holder in Parliament. He used his influence, his calling, to champion the abolition of the slave trade and fundamentally transform the moral conscience of a nation.
And his impact wasn't tied to a short-term political career. He successfully embedded his values into a widespread cultural movement that continued long after his death. He prioritized justice and ethical transformation over personal wealth or political gain.
Right.
That focus on purpose, not applause, is key.
That leads us back to the major pitfall we have to actively avoid, the relentless pursuit of short-term gains.
Many leaders achieve rapid, impressive success, only to fade quickly because they prioritized applause, recognition, or quick wins, that immediate gratification over the hard, slow work of intentional discipleship and long-term systems building.
The analysis we reviewed is adamant about this. You must constantly audit your decisions against the risk of prioritizing speed over depth.
Because if you don't intentionally build for longevity and multiplication, you just find yourself constantly rebuilding instead of advancing your overarching mission.
Which brings us full circle. True leadership, the kind that defines a legacy, is measured not by what you achieve for yourself, the balance sheet, the titles, but by what you successfully cultivate in others. Your influence becomes eternal when it is rooted in deep purpose and invested relationally in the people around you.
The final provocative question posed in the material really challenges us all at our core. What if your most lasting achievement isn't a project you complete, but a person you develop?
That truly reframes everything we think about when we look at our weekly schedules. So our actionable takeaway for you today is simple. Take one concrete action this week to multiply influence. Whether that means committing to mentoring, coaching a junior colleague, or equipping someone with a greater responsibility they aren't quite ready for yet, commit to advancing your leadership legacy plan today.